I think you already know there is great interest in piston-driven AR rifles, thought to run cleaner than the original gas design. There are conversion kits on the market, but folks who've tried them have sometimes learned the hard way that the forces acting on the bolt and on the receiver are quite different, with fractured receivers as the result. So when Smith & Wesson created their Piston M&P rifle, there was a lot of engineering that went into the process. It's what you'd expect for products made right in the USA. Jerry Miculek is not just a three-gun champion. He is one of the greatest multi-gun competitors ever, blazing a trail of top finishes littered with 223 brass. Shooting an AR with such speed and accuracy, his trigger finger has become the source of legend, and his rifle the source of conversation between shooting enthusiasts. But there's no secret for Jerry. His rifle is a Smith & Wesson M&P15.
The Smith & Wesson M&P15s have been 100% for me in competition. I have to have that. I can't go to a match and worry about equipment. So my setups are 100%. I go to the line, I shoot, put a little oil on them, go back to the house, I'm happy. It runs. That's the main thing. It has to go bang every time I pull the trigger. It's never failed me at a match.
But before Jerry's M&P15 sends lead down range, it's assembled here. Just another rifle on the Smith & Wesson AR line. And that's why Jerry's taking a look at the process it takes to create both his and perhaps your AR. 250 rifles can come from this work cell in a single shift. Uppers and lowers are assembled on separate ends and then merged together. These are the final steps before test firing. But step one begins in an older part of the factory with a veteran employee. If you own a Smith & Wesson, chances are Bob Rostrins had a hand in it. He's built Smith & Wessons since high school. These days, the seasoned machine operator mans the newest technology in-house. Twin CNC machines cutting AR bolts and bolt carriers. Today, it's pieces for new piston-driven ARs. The cleaner-running piston-driven system is gaining popularity among shooting enthusiasts, but engineers are only now perfecting the relatively new system. Early conversion kits had problems withstanding the pressures of firing, so Smith & Wesson Engineers developed new bolts and bolt carriers designed to withstand the aggressive action. This translates into more aggressive machining here, beginning with stouter materials.
The reason it starts off from a 2-inch bar is because we have to machine on the lug versus a standard carrier, which takes a gas key, so we can use a much smaller blank. So we take the material off in the CNC vertical machine for the additional strength on that lug.
The massive lug comes from the first cuts made by the CNC machines. Making the lug a part of the carrier guarantees the toughness of the part and ensures clean cycling in a finished rifle. Bolts are machined in a similar process on an identical machine. Each bolt immediately goes to Jose Aponte, a man with as much trigger time as Jerry Miculek, because Jose test fires the bolts to check durability. The purpose-built testing machine fires .223 caliber rounds on the bolt head, making this a true check of the part's strength. Then a process called magnafluxing is used to check for imperfections. Jose polarizes the bolts and covers it in UV-sensitive material. If there were any cracks, Jose would see them under the lights. This guarantees only perfect bolts move to the next step. After getting a magnesium phosphate coating, the bolt and bolt carrier are assembled. Jose adds a stabilization spring to the bolt. This small spring is another crucial element to the piston-driven AR. The spring keeps the bolt stable during the firing process. A cotter pin and a check of the movement of the two pieces and this bolt and carrier are ready for final assembly. So the bolt is ready, and we'll be ready for final assembly right after the break. Coming up, Jerry meets the team building M&P rifles as fast as they can to try to meet the demand. That's next.
You're watching Shooting USA, news and information for America's gun owners.
The demand for AR-type sporting rifles and for law enforcement models has been fierce in the past year, and that's definitely the case for the entire line of Smith Wesson M&P rifles. Well, that calls for efficiency to meet the demand, and that's the process in the assembly area at the Smith Factory in Springfield, Massachusetts. These semicircle workstations mark the start and finish of assembly for all Smith & Wesson ARs. Teams work together assembling lowers and uppers separately, then merge them for the final step. Employees work at individual stations but depend on the work from the previous station to be accurate in order to keep moving rifles down the line. Workers are supplied from outside the line to keep the production moving steadily inside the work cell.
We operate on a work cell, if you will, semicircle. We have parts loaded to operators from the outside of the circle. The operators run an assembly line inside and move from workstation to workstation to complete their parts.
Today's assembly is the Smith & Wesson MOE, a gas-operated flat-top 223 chambered M&P15 with a mag pull stock, grip, and handguard. Janine Lambert is working on lowers, adding the hammer, hand grip, and stock. The stock is tightened into place using a torque wrench. 30 foot-pounds of twist is an industry standard for the part. A check of the recoil spring and trigger, and this lower moves forward. Further down the line, Sammy is working two jobs, attaching dust covers and the forward assist to an upper, while this machine is honing the barrel and drilling the gas port. The 800 grit barrel hone polishes the chrome-lined chamber. Cleaning the chamber is a crucial step for extraction of fired rounds.
When that shell expands, you'll be amazed at just how a little bit of grit or gunpowder or whatever will hold that shell and stop the ejection from working.
This upper is now ready for the delta ring and barrel. Sammy assembles the parts and torques it to 35 pounds using a torque wrench. A small rod checks the ring's alignment. It has to be at 12 o'clock in order for the gas tube to fit through. This is a crucial step in the assembly of the AR.
If you don't have a good size hole, direct alignment with the fixed sight or a gas block, the tube entering into that bolt carrier unit and finishing that circle of air, it has everything to do with that gun functioning.
The upper moves on to Nathan Breathwaite for the final parts, including the mag pull forend and, most importantly, the bolt and carrier. After adding the charging handle and bolt, Nathan cycles dummy rounds to ensure all installations are correct. Having been built on separate ends of the line, both the upper and lower arrive at the final station, where the serial numbers are checked and the two pieces merge together, creating an M&P rifle. It takes an average of 2 minutes for each rifle from start to finish, making the Smith & Wesson assembly lines efficient in an attempt to keep up with demand. But it's the quality of the product that impresses pro shooter Jerry Miculek. His eyes are scanning for possible problems. The final report, the Smith & Wesson MOEs are ready to shoot.
Everything there is in minimum tolerance, so you have a real tight product. The pin fit's also very critical. You start to put aftermarket triggers in it, that comes into play, and these things are right on the money. So I was hoping they'd give me a couple of them, but I don't think so.
Really? Well, however he got it, you will see Jerry running his favorite version of the M&P15 in the USPSA Multi-Gun Nationals. And like he said, it always runs for him.